How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Emnix Plays Path of Exile. We are currently a level 49 occultist in Act 6, and we are just looking pretty. I'm really happy with the progress that we made so far with this character. Defensively, offensively, this character feels pretty good. Obviously, we're still, halfway through the campaign, so it doesn't say much about whether we're running a good build or not. You could be running the most unoptimized build, or it doesn't even need to be optimized. You could just be running a garbage build, and nobody would know any better, because you're going through a campaign. Again, as long as you have your defenses set up, and everybody should, you're gonna be fine. Now, there was one league mechanic that I didn't talk about last episode that did get introduced at the beginning of Act 6. And that is the heist mechanic. So if you check your inventory, maybe not, but at some point in Act 6, you're gonna get these rogue markers as a drop. And they're essentially currencies, specifically for the heist mechanic. If you were to right-click this thing, it'll open up a portal to the rogue harbor, and this is sort of where you get introduced to the heist mechanic. Now, unfortunately, I created a character in the Crucible League, and I've already, played through a lot of the Crucible League. And what that means is a lot of the quests that are typically available at the beginning of the heist, or at the beginning of the league, regarding heist, I've already done. So typically, at the beginning of a heist, you talk to Kurai, you talk to everybody in the area, and they'll give you like a little tutorial on how the heist would typically work. I don't have that anymore. I think what I could do, though, is I could buy a contract, and I'll just do that. Is there like a... Sure, I'll grab this lockpicking one. I'll roll it blue. Okay, so heist is actually a pretty complicated mechanic, I would say, but you can basically view it as instance dungeons. The goal of it is to, the main goal, I guess, is to get to the end of the dungeon, grab the loot, which is typically some kind of treasure, and then to bring it back unharmed. And if you manage to bring it back to the rogue harbor, you sell that treasure, and they'll give you additional rogue markers, which you can then use on future contracts. But aside from grabbing this treasure, as you're getting through these rooms, eventually you find areas that you can unlock as well, and they're like big treasure rooms as well. So the idea is, as you progress through like this instance dungeon, there's going to be a bunch of treasure rooms, and you want to and each one is a chest, and you want to open up as many chests as you can without raising the alert level to the maximum. The moment alert gets raised to like 100%, all the chests get locked down. You won't be able to open anymore, and then you just have to get out of the area. Similarly, if you were to grab the big treasure, like the final treasure at the end of the rooms, the alert level also goes to 100%, and then you won't be able to grab any more treasure. So the idea is, for example, you open these doors using the people that you bring with you. So you have companions that you can basically bring onto the heist. In our case, we're doing what's called a lock picking contract, and we brought Karst, the lockpick. And you go up to these areas. You either press this thing right here, you press the button V, and then he opens up the chest. When he opens up the chest, your alert level goes up a little bit. Early on, when you don't have any items to buff your companions, alert level goes up by quite a lot. In the heist itself, the enemies tend to be quite strong, so that is something to watch out for. Like even right now, they're doing quite a bit of damage to me. So it is something that you have to be cognizant of. And another thing that I should mention is, as you're picking up these items within the heist, these items come as, I think, contraband. And the idea is you cannot identify them, you cannot use them, you cannot actually keep them. You cannot keep them until you leave this contract, so until you complete the contract. So if for whatever reason you end up dying in this area, you basically only have one shot. If you die, you drop all of your contraband. If you ever played, like, I don't know, Sheriffs of Nottingham, that's a card game where essentially you try to get contraband past the sheriff by lying to him. It's like kind of similar in that way, where it's like you have a bunch of contraband and you don't get to keep it until you actually make it through the border crossing, right? And in this case, the border crossing is just taking it back to the rogue harbor. So even if alert level goes to 100%, that doesn't actually mean you're gonna lose all your items. It just means you cannot open up any more chests, and you cannot open up that final treasure room. So sometimes that's fine. Maybe you're not here to get the treasure. Maybe you're here to just open these chests. Most of the rewards are going to be coming from those big chests, as well as the small chest. The small chest gives random rewards, whereas the big chest gives predefined rewards. And what I mean by that is, if you were to look on, let me deal with this guy first actually. If you look on your mini map, you can see, you know, there's a little icon there, and that icon represents currency. So that's a currency chest. If you open up one of those, you will find, you know, a variety of currencies, but they should all be of the currency type. Now, depending on the contract that you do, there's like quite a few versions of contracts. There's like a lock picking contract, a agility contract, perception, demolition, brute force. There's a bunch. Depending on which kind of contract you do, they tend to skew towards a certain type of reward. So lock picking contracts tend to skew towards currencies. And when I mean skew towards them, I mean like those big chests with the treasure rooms that we opened up. Those big chests tend to be currencies. And like when you enter the heist itself, you're gonna see what the treasure chests are, and you sort of get to pick and choose. Okay, these chests are worth, you know, opening up the room and generating alert level for, whereas these specific chests I don't really care about. You know, like these chests give armor items. I don't really care about that. And then you can pick and choose, you know, which things you want to open up. In our case, we managed to open up everything, just because I have enough equipment on and I guess levels on my companions that they don't generate enough alert level to actually fully, you know, max it out. But once you get the curio, which is sort of like the last treasure, the alert level goes to 100%. And then you basically just have to get out of here. You know, the alert goes, when it goes to 100%, a lot more enemies end up showing up. They're gonna chase you around, trying to kill you, and you know, security has been alerted, and so you just have to be really careful because they tend to group up in packs. You know, a bunch of doors are locked, and then when you try to unlock them, you get shotgun. Oh my god. I don't like that. You guys shotgun by these guys. I guess I don't have good enough defenses for content like this right now. But you know, if you were to make it out of this area, you would then be able to keep all of those rewards. If you die, you lose everything. So you do have to be careful. You need a character with a good amount of defenses, I think, and good enough clear to actually be able to deal with all these enemies running at you without dying, right? So that's sort of the gist of how heist works. There's a total of 9 allies, and each contract you only bring 1 ally, but there's also something called blueprints, which is sort of like the grand contract. And the idea is, if you look at this thing and hold alt over it, these are all the different reward rooms you could potentially get in these contracts. And really in heist, the small contracts, you know, you can do them and they're pretty good for farming currencies actually. Oh, I had a passive skill point in Act 1 that I just wasn't paying attention to. What the heck? Okay. That's pretty lucky. I didn't realize it. Okay. But yeah, so like in if you just do the normal contracts, you know, you get quite a bit of rewards actually. If you saw the items that we dropped, there was quite a bit of currency, quite a few rare items, a little bit of everything. Now, the blueprints provide you with special items, essentially. You could get things like alternative quality gems. You could get things like different sort of item base types, like special item base types. You could get currencies still. You could also get things like trinkets, which are basically equipment that make that affects all of your heists. That makes, you know, it gives you modifiers like chance for orbs of alterations to drop as chaos orbs instead, and all kinds of things that sort of enhance your experience while running heist. So there's a lot of people, you know, they build up their rogue markers, and then they use those rogue markers to actually run these blueprints or grand heists or whatever you want to call them. And some people, they don't, you know, again, you don't need to play all the content there is in the game. If you find that, hey, you know what, like in my case, I think heists are okay, but I don't like running them all the time because a lot of it, first of all, it requires you to have good defenses, and sometimes my characters don't have good defenses. And also it requires you to well, there's a lot of door opening in the heist mechanic. I don't know if you noticed while watching, but you know, the doors all get locked, and then you need to spend a lot of time just getting these friggin' doors open, and it's just not, it's not for me. You know, sometimes I just want to run around and blast and not think about, you know, I run, and then I get blocked by a door, and I run, and it got blocked by a door. Like I just, you know, it doesn't interest me. So sometimes, you know, for the most part, I run the contracts just for the currency, and then I don't bother with the blueprints. Or in some cases, I just sell the rogue markers. If you actually have, you know, if you're interested in doing some trading, right? And the rogue markers, they sell for a good amount as well. So again, you know, different ways to experience heists, different ways to experience a lot of mechanics in this game, really. The late game in Path of Exile is sort of built around you picking and choosing, you know, which mechanics you like to play around, and then building around that. So similar to, you know, these characters in Path of Exile, where you pick a couple skills that you like and you build around those skills. Late game in Path of Exile gives you that choice as well in terms of content, where it's like there's a bunch of different mechanics that Path of Exile has introduced over the years. You're not forced to have to engage in all of them. You can block off some of them. You can make certain ones stronger, certain ones weaker. You know, a lot of it is playing to, you know, based on the style you want to play. So that was the heist mechanic, and I ran over to Tidal Island real quick to do an optional quest, but I think the quest actually gives you passive skill points, so I decided to do it. While we were here, I noticed that there's an abyss. So this is another League mechanic, right? So I guess Act 6 onwards, you're going to be seeing a lot more of these. The abyss League mechanic, long story short, when you walk over it, cracks forms on the ground. You follow the cracks, monsters come out of it. Kill those monsters, keep following the cracks. Once you get to the end, a little treasure chest shows up. And the thing that's unique about Abyss specifically is they drop these things called Abyss Jewels. So you can have, you know, standard jewels that you can put in the jewel socket, and we've seen that before. They're like the Cobalt and Viridian jewels. They give stats. Abyss Jewels, it's just like another kind of stats that they provide. A lot of their stats are sort of flat damage focused. And then there's also an Abyss Belt that exists, and essentially it allows you to socket Abyss Jewels into your belt instead of your tree. So that's the only thing that Abyss has. In fact, a Stygian Spire showed up, so I'm pretty sure when Spires show up you can get the belts. Let me double check. Why do I feel so weak all of a sudden? What happened? What happened to my character? Things were like going honky-dory like a couple days ago. What the heck? All of a sudden everything hurts. Did I have my auras turned off? I might have had my auras turned off. Okay, let's play a little safer. Oh my god. okay? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not talking, but I'm just... Things are kind of insane right now. I'm actually just concentrating, trying to not die. Normally, Abyss content, I have to say, okay, this is just my luck, I guess, but normally Abyss content is not this hard. What the heck? What the hell is happening? Alright, we got him. And we got the belt too. Okay, sweet, cool. So we can actually show off all the mechanics right here. Which is, I guess, kind of nice of the game to do so. Like, thank you, game. But next time, can you just not make it this friggin' hard? What the hell? Okay, so I think I am missing a little bit of damage. Just based off of what I'm seeing here, you know. Defense is 2, obviously. I think I'm getting hit pretty hard by these guys. Suppression. Chance to suppress spell damage is lucky is a pretty good mastery. Actually, I'm gonna go pick that up. Especially when our suppression is what? 22%. Yeah, it's so low. So we ended up picking up this Abyss belt, which actually rolled pretty decently. It's not as good as my heavy belt. But we also got this Ghastly Eye Jewel, which is admittedly not a good jewel, for us at least. But, you know, so what you can do is you can slot this jewel into the jewel socket on your tree, right? You know, if I had a jewel socket, I don't have any allocated, but say you had a jewel socket here, you could slot this jewel into this jewel socket, but you can also slot it into a belt, which means that you have a belt that gives stats like this, in addition to the stats that an Abyss jewel would give you. And that's sort of, you know, the major mechanic for Abyss. That would be the major thing, I would say. So, you know, step on the crack, break your mom's back, and keep following the crack. Eventually you get to the end, and you either fight that spire thingy, or you will, I don't know, or the Abyss mechanic would complete, and then you would get a little chest, which you would then open and get all like jewel rewards essentially. The belt can only drop when that spire shows up, so typically the spire doesn't show up very often. Definitely that was a very lucky, a very lucky Abyss, I think. This is probably the first time I've gotten a belt at such a low level, which is kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, so that's, long story short, that's the Abyss mechanic. I do think this belt is better than the belt I have, because you basically get double the stats, right? You get stats off of the belt and you get stats off of the jewel. Unfortunately, I do not have a good jewel. But what I will do is I will keep this belt for later. It gives a lot of strength, it gives some life, not much. And it gives some resistance. This jewel is no good. This wand we picked up though is kind of insane. 22 to 42 cold damage to spells? Like, what the heck is that? What does that do to my Ice Nova? So right now my DPS is 3400. This would bring it to 3800. Okay, yeah, so that is a big upgrade. And then let's equip Device, Grace, Vestal. What does he give us? Okay, I see. What do I need? A Strength Dex Amulet might not be bad. The belt is fine. Like, it could be better, but it's fine. This ring is kind of bad. Actually, 9 to all res. Let's go for the amulet. I think I'm ready for an amulet upgrade. And unfortunately, that's just not... Is that good enough? 69 to life with good stats? But my resistances, it hurts so much. You know what? Let's craft some resistance onto my gear. It's part of the reason why we're dying so much. So maybe let's just get that fixed. So on the amulet, What do I need? Fire and lightning. So maybe a little bit of fire res on the belt. I guess a little more fire res. And then if possible, I would like to get some lightning resistance somewhere. The gloves. And these are cheap upgrades, right? And actually, since we're spending money, we might as well get some more spell damage. Oh, we can't get more flat added damage, huh? I could get increased spell damage this way. Yeah, okay. And then maybe on here as well. No flat damage, that's fine. Get a little bit more spell damage this way. There we go. Okay, so our character needs a little bit more lightning resistance. But otherwise, it's okay. Alright. Sell the rest of this stuff. And continue on with progression, I guess. So we finished the Tidal Island quest. Nessa has disappeared. Tarkly last saw her running to Mudflats. Yes, that's fine. And then the ridge. Okay. So today is what? Thursday, August the 10th. The patch notes have come out. And unfortunately, there aren't any major skill rebalances. Reddit is kind of going crazy because they're so upset about it. And I'm just here going, it's not that bad, guys. We got all kinds of like support gems. I suppose there are a lot of people who've played the game so much that the meta is actually stale now. Whereas in my case, I don't play that many builds, so like, you know, the builds that are still meta, I definitely haven't played yet. So I'm like, hey, it just gives me more time to play builds that, you know, I've wanted to play. Funnily enough, the build that I'm currently playing, you know, Frostbolt Ice Nova, it's not even meta. You know, I'm just playing like a build. At the end of the day, it's like I'm playing whatever the heck I want, right? And I think this is what I want to build because I want to play with the return projectile support gem. And I feel like this would be a good build for it. But I don't know. I feel like people are maybe overreacting a little bit. You know, they're talking about how there's more changes in Ruthless than there was in regular PoE. And while, you know, at first glance it does look that way, the changes are like mostly in line with like existing ascendancy. Like they're just like minor number buffs or nerfs, I guess, in some cases. So like, you know, nothing really happened there either. You know, when it comes to skill balance, skills really weren't really balanced on the Ruthless patch either. But anyways, I'm not gonna complain about that. I do like the fact that there are new support gems in the game, and I'm hoping that that opens up some new build possibilities. And it kind of does for me, right? Like the only reason why I'm trying out Frostbolt Ice Nova is because I want to try it with this return projectile support gem. But yeah, but you know, like what was it, like 10 new support gems were released? That does seem exciting, even when skills don't get balanced. You know, adding more support gems or adding more gems in general into the mix kind of stirs the pot a little bit, right? Just because you don't really know how things interact with each other until you actually test it out. And this game already has so many different variables. You add a couple new variables and now you can potentially have more combinations of possible builds you could try out, right? So that's very exciting to me. Not that I'm gonna be trying out too many builds. You know, at the end of the day, I only have so much time, and I can only basically fit in 1 or 2 characters per league, given the time that I have. I know there are some people who finish a character in a week, and then they make a second character, and then a third, and then maybe a fourth, and then quit the league because they're done, right? Whereas in my case, I would be playing like the same 2 characters for like 3 months, and then I spend the last month, I guess, just like chilling and winding down until the next league comes out. In this case, what happened was I played the same character actually for 2 months, and then I went for Diablo 4, played a little bit of that, and then I really wanted to play Path of Exile. 4 months between leagues is a little too long, and I was like, PoE, new league, it can't come fast enough. And that's when I decided, I'm like, you know what? They've already teased some of what's coming out next league. I'm terrible when it comes to, you know, reading a build guide or making my own build. So how about I actually practice, you know, what I'm gonna play for the following league, and just make sure it's all hunky-dory. You know, everything's good to go. And you know, if so, you know, I'm gonna have a better time at league start, right? So it's crazy because I see some of the guys playing Path of Exile and what they consider like league start equipment. It's like end of day 1 equipment, and then this, I'm looking at the stuff they have, I'm like, dude, this is like end of week 3 equipment for me. Some people just play this game so fast. Meanwhile, you know, I'm just like casually running through the campaign, taking my time, and like, in a way, am I doing it on purpose? Not really. Because I'm having a great time, by the way, right? Like, this is basically how I enjoy the game. I don't need to speed through the content in order to get to the late game, in order to have fun. I do like the campaign. I do think, you know, it is satisfying to watch your character progress, and get stronger as you play. And you see a lot of those power spikes in the campaign. And even though I've played through the campaign like so many times already, it never really got truly old for me. It was always pretty fun. I always try to, and maybe this is what it was, but I always try to go through the campaign with different builds, just so that I don't end up running, you know, using the fastest build possible to get through the campaign. Like, I never really did that. I just played, you know, whatever skill I was planning to play, I'll just do that as early as I can. So maybe that's what it was, because now you have to figure out, okay, I'm playing a different build through the leveling stage. You know, what's different? What do I need in order to get through the campaign? You know, where are my power spikes? What kinds of items should I be focusing on? What kinds of gems? You know, there's still a lot to think about in those cases. Maybe that's why I just never burned out on it. But overall, you know, I came here to have a good time, not a fast time, I suppose. Not that I cannot have both. You know, there is something to be said about trying to optimize the way you run your campaign. You know, being able to do it faster and faster. It's like doing time trials, right? That's what speedrunning really is. And that's not boring either, right? Like, you're still making progress in a way, like personal progress. You're setting personal records and stuff. That's also fun. By the way, we're fighting Brutus again. Reassembled Brutus. The guy got rebuilt like Frankenstein, man. Okay. You might be asking yourself, what's going on in the story? How come Brutus is back? Who's this Chevron person? I have no idea. Actually, didn't we fight Chevron already in like Act 5? Or Act 4? Anyways, let's just keep playing, okay? We're here to experience the gameplay. Like, the story is... It might as well be non-existent to me. Oh, my wife is messaging. Do you have to defrost something for the... For the daughter for dinner tomorrow. Okay. Gotta figure out what to feed her tomorrow. Fridge is running pretty dry.
Much clutter.
I didn't actually think about it, but wait, why's my inventory full again?
Good tidings to you.
Okay, let's sell some more stuff. Are there any decent upgrades? Ooh, movement speed boots. Finally. Okay, let's check that out really quickly.
Time and tide
There's a
wait
bunch
for
of
no
stuff that
man.
I can probably just stash away that we are probably not going to need.
Good tidings to you. Time and
Don't
tide
need
wait for no
this,
man.
don't need this. The rest, something like that. That's pretty good. Can get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay, movement speed boots. And there's clarity on here, so we can put clarity here. This gives us 5% more movement speed, some more fire resistance. And again, I don't have enough lightning resistance. So let's see if we can craft a little bit more. So maybe on here, get a little bit of lightning res. And then I can actually exchange the fire res for more lightning res. Okay, 75, 69, 75. Pretty good. And I basically don't need this anymore. Alright, what's the time? It feels like I've been sort of just like talking about League mechanics this whole time. Just because for some reason the game threw Abyss at us and then threw Heist at us. I never really got the chance to go through the story. Let's just run through this really quickly. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the Western Forest Zone, again, it's really just a leveling zone. There's really no objectives, I think, in this area. So you don't actually need to worry about fully clearing the zone. Pretty much you just follow the road until you get to the next area, which is probably what I'm gonna do here. I think we're gonna rush through a little bit of it and see if we can maybe get to the act boss in the next 10-20 minutes. So I did say I'm here for a good time, not a fast time. It hasn't been that very long since I said it, but at the same time, there's only 6 days left. 7 days until the new league comes out. We're still in Act 6. We do need to try and get through this. Oh, what the hell killed me? I actually don't know what happened there. Okay, let's grab the waypoint here. And we will go for our optional quest at the wetlands. You know, despite the fact that it's an optional quest, the quest reward is a skill gem, which I think is worth it. We just have to find the darn thing. Okay. Here's the boss. First thing you do is you destroy the nests. Pretty straightforward stuff. And once you destroy the 3 nests, you go back up here, the boss spawns. And then you basically just fuck her up, right?
I need more mana.
I'm definitely dying a lot more. Even though, you know, I feel like my defenses are okay. I think life might be a little low right now.
Release this land to the will of its true children. Yes,
Increased life recovery? Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, let's go back to town. It's gonna give us a couple more passive skill points, I think. Or passive skill books. Wait. Oh, he actually gives us gear. 4 links. Well, I could try this one.
With the road, another
Okay, and there's a passive skill point. So with that, I'm gonna get a little bit more HP. And then the helmet, I'm probably not gonna replace.
Still alive.
I do like this will clash that we got here.
Stay sharp.
Even though it doesn't give us much for defense. Actually, no, it gives you spell block, which is actually really good. And it gives a good amount of evasion. If there's anything that's kind of bad, it's this chest, which is only giving 54 energy shield. That's nothing to write home about, let me tell you. Okay, let's continue on. All right. Onwards to the southern forest. And what's kind of cool about playing Frostbolt Ice Vortex is you can just shoot the Frostbolt, follow it, and it casts Vortex as you go. And you basically get like a moving AoE skill that clears as you run forward. I do think that's kind of nice. Overall, I would say it's a pretty fun skill. You know, mechanically, is it good? Is it bad? I'm not too sure yet. The verdict is still kind of out on that one, but you know, the fun factor is it's there. And maybe that's all you care about at the end of the day, you know? If it's fun, I mean, if you are having fun with it, chances are it's probably a decent skill. Because if you weren't having fun, it's probably because you're dying all the time. Or the game is just terribly boring, which, if that's the case, if you're just like way too bored, your eyes are closing, you're falling asleep, you know, knees weak, arms, you know, like, then maybe the skill is not that good. Or you're just playing the wrong game. I don't know. It's one or the other, right? Okay. I'm still terribly sick. My voice is just, oh, it's so hoarse.
The Brand King, his time has almost come. Then
Oh my
before
god.
I will be gone. Please.
Well, here's another
That
mechanic
flag. It
that I
once
can talk
fluttered
about
from
real
the mast of
quick.
the Black Crest, Raynor
It's the
Rod's ship.
delirium mechanic.
Throw it into the flames of the
Certain
Tempest,
times when you enter a
only
zone,
chance of putting- of
you
turning this
find these
tide.
mirrors.
The king can't keep
And as you walk through the mirror, this fog is going to show up. And essentially, as you walk forward in the fog, monsters will spawn, as well as the monsters that already exist in this zone. But as you kill these monsters, you have a bar that slowly fills up at the bottom right, bottom left, next to your health bar. You can kind of see right here. It basically represents how many items you will be rewarded upon completing this league mechanic called Delirium. The enemies in the fog they're quite strong. They get stronger the deeper into the fog you go, but also you get more rewards the more you kill. So, you know, the more you're killing, the more this bar goes up. The higher the bar goes, the more rewards you're going to be getting. On I think 3, 5, 7, on like those indicators. So like right now, we're on like 4 stages or whatever the heck you want to call it. At 4 reward points, at 5 you're gonna get a third set of rewards. So right now we're getting 2 sets of different rewards. If you manage to hit 5, you get a third set. If you manage to hit 7, you get a 4th set, and so on and so forth. But yeah, so the fog slowly dissipates. So if you were to run back to the entrance of this area, you'll find that the fog is completely gone. Once the fog basically disappears, the delirium mechanic is ending. So you can see the fog disappeared on me. I got 1 second left, and then all the rewards based off this will drop. So I'm gonna get 4 jewels, and then 2 look like random items. And another thing that delirium drops is a very unique kind of mechanic. They're called cluster jewels. The way cluster jewels work is, you know, what's a cluster? Well, over here there's a cold cluster, right? A set of small nodes with some notable nodes, right? So here's a cold cluster. The one I'm getting chill on my small nodes, and the notable nodes has enemies permanently take 1% increased damage for each second they've been chilled by you, up to a maximum 10%. So over here, what I have is a cluster jewel where the small passive nodes are wand attacks deal 12% increased damage. And then if I were to roll it a couple times, for example, here, well, you know, there are 8 passive skills in this cluster. All the small ones are, of the 8, you know, 7 of the small ones are +2 to fire resistance. And then you also have 1 notable passive skill, which is called Field of Fight, which gives you 8% increased attack speed, 0.4 attack damage, leechless mana, and 20% increased damage while leeching. So these cluster jewels get socketed in the large jewel sockets on the edge of your tree. So there's 1 jewel socket over here, there's 1 jewel socket over here, there's 1 jewel socket over here, and there's like 1, 2, 3, like 6 more, I think. Or actually, I'm not sure. Like 1. Anyways, it's in like every corner of the tree. So you would have to allocate these 3 points and then put the cluster jewel in there. Once you put the cluster jewel in there, a cluster, it kind of looks like this, ends up showing up, and then you can allocate all of those points. It still costs passive skill points, but it basically lets you extend your passive skill tree and cater it towards a build or like points that you want to spend on. Cluster jewels are actually really powerful. You do want to use it, but it's something you use typically more towards the end game when you do have the points to spend on cluster jewels. Generally, you know, they are more efficient jewels, or it's like if you can't find enough damage nodes nearby and you don't want to spend X number of points to get to the next cluster of cold damage nodes, you can equip like a cold damage cluster jewel. The notives gives you, the notables give you uh, pretty powerful buffs to your character, and then the small, passive skills, the cold damage, the weapon damage, the whatever on your cluster could be very useful as well. So you're gonna find that a lot of builds use cluster jewels, I would say, but at the same time, if you're following a guide, a lot of like league start or like beginner friendly build guides won't lead you to use cluster jewels immediately because it is a little bit more of a late game kind of thing. But they do drop early. It's just that you won't be able to efficiently use it early on since you just don't have the points for it. So there are like 3 kinds of cluster jewels. There's a large cluster jewel, which is like 8 to 12 nodes. There's a medium cluster jewel, which is like 4 to 6, I want to say. And then there's a small cluster jewel, which is 2 to 3 nodes. And you can actually chain these cluster jewels, which is pretty insane, by going like large cluster jewel to medium cluster jewel to small cluster jewel, because these cluster jewels also have jewel sockets in them as well. So you could, chain a medium cluster jewel onto a large cluster jewel, and then chain a small cluster jewel onto the medium cluster jewel, and you basically have 3 sets of jewels on your passive tree, right? Or 3 different jewels. You could also do, large cluster jewel and then a small cluster jewel equipped to it. People do all kinds of combinations when it comes to their builds, when it comes to cluster jewels, and like that, again, that kind of shows you just the power of like build diversity in Path of Exile. There's so many ways to build it. You could use cluster jewels, you could not use cluster jewels, you could use medium jewels in combination with small jewels, and there's all kinds of large cluster jewels, all kinds of medium cluster jewels, all kinds of small cluster jewels. Then there's the thought, like which passives, which notables are you going to take on this cluster jewel? And these jewels, again, they can be rolled with currency in the game. They could be a white jewel, it could be a blue jewel, it could be a yellow, rare jewel. It's quite powerful. When it did get released, I feel like there was quite a little bit of power creep as a result, just because of how strong these cluster jewels were. Things are a little bit better now, but again, every build pretty much uses cluster jewels at one point or another. They might not use it right away, and a lot of build guides don't actually recommend you slotting jewels until you're at least like 70, level 70, level 60 something. Yeah, just a heads up. So yeah, that's Delirium League. There's the fog. You run through the fog. Once the fog dissipates, you get rewards. Sometimes those rewards are cluster jewels, and the cluster jewels give you a bunch of flexibility, a whole bunch of flexibility, to build your character. And it's probably one of those items that you will be farming for in the late game. Trying to get the perfect cluster jewel with the perfect, small passives and the notables that you need, and so on and so forth. You are going to be farming for it, because chances are your build, if you're using a build guide, and even if you're not using a build guide, chances are, it is something you want to look into at some point. I wouldn't say right away though. Okay, it's currently the 48-minute mark. I do think we have enough time to actually kill the boss here. So let's see if we could try and do that. There's one side quest that it looks like I forgot to do that we might have to go back for. And I'm pretty sure that side quest also provides a passive skill point. So it's not a quest that we really want to skip. So I'm just keeping that in mind. Okay, it is currently, it's almost 12 a.m. I'm getting pretty tired. Let's hurry up and find the boss.
When I'm ready,
And again, it basically took us an hour to get through this act. A little slow. Man, these guys are tanky. I can't get out of here. I really wish I got Frigid Wake now. Because I feel like that passive would be a lot better compared to what I got going on. Okay. Come on, let's find the boss. Okay, here we go, here we go. Here's the boss room.
So courageous. Such a fine example of womanhood. I simply knew you wouldn't disappoint me. Or my
So the Bride King,
husband. You see, His Majesty could never be
He's-
satiated on his wedding day by one bride alone.
he is really rippy if you don't have good movement. And if you don't have, you know, good cold resistance. Essentially, he encloses you into a small space. And if you don't dodge his attacks correctly, you end up taking a lot of damage. And you're gonna see what I mean in a moment. So again, here's the small space. And if you don't properly dodge, like the water coming out, the explosions on the ground, you're gonna take a lot of damage. So a lot of new players tend to get confused when they fight this boss, and you know, and basically get owned as a result. So really the only piece of advice I can give when fighting this boss is to stand still and just look around you, and just really observe, right? Like here, this thing's being shot out, so let's just move out of the way, and then we're just gonna stand still. Over here, there are explosions. You know, just check where the explosions are happening, and you know, where a lot of this AoE damage is coming from, and you're gonna be just fine. Definitely, this fight rewards you being patient. So like again, you know, I saw something on the ground, let's just move out of the way by a little bit. So even if you just do that, you're gonna be fine. There we go.
Too much clutter.
Very easy fight there.
Born of ocean's mire, and death washed clean of dung. And thus
There we go, and we get a major god soul for the Pantheon. And that's pretty much it for Act 6.
Hold on, Tiek.
Talk to Whalem Roth, we sail to Bridge Encampment. This is Act 7. There we go. So another hour has passed. We are now in Act 7. Things are looking pretty good. Defenses are starting to sort of fall apart. So which is why I'm like on the tree trying to pick up as much life as possible. I'm just trying to get that back up to acceptable levels, basically. Did we find any decent equipment? I'm gonna sell the cluster jewel. I really don't need it. This ring's kind of interesting. Lightning resistance, 5 to all elemental resistances. Yeah, that's probably an upgrade. Oh no, cold resistance goes to shit then. What if I did this? Okay, if I did this, I don't have enough stats to run my skills. Good to know, good to know. I need a lot of dexterity, it seems. Yeah, okay. Let's leave this at that.
Hello.
No, I don't really think I have an upgrade, so I'm just gonna sell these things right here.
Go with courage.
Remember to live.
Okay, so now we are in Act 7. Let's try and finish the last 7, 8, 9, 10, last 4 acts in the next couple days. And then we can at least try and do a little bit of maps before the new league start. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys very much for watching. I know I've been a little bit quiet today. Kind of tired. but I really wanted to play. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, as always, you can leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more updates in the future. Otherwise, keep in touch, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.